If you've ever watched videos of foreigners trying Vietnamese food, you'll notice a very familiar pattern. At first, they're excited and curious. Vietnam is famous for its cuisine, so of course it must be delicious. But then the moment a plate of bun domum tom appears or a fertilized duck egg is cracked open, everything begins to shift. Their eyes go from curious to doubtful. Their smiles slowly freeze, and sometimes they even back out on the spot. But what's interesting is that those very dishes, the ones that make them panic, are also the ones they remember most when they leave Vietnam. It's like a cultural shock, but the kind that lingers long after the experience. Vietnamese cuisine has many elements that leave Westerners astonished. It's a blend of strong aromas, bold flavors, unusual textures, and sometimes ingredients that make people question, do Vietnamese really eat this? And in today's journey, we're diving into something truly unique, Vietnamese dishes that make foreigners reconsider everything they thought they knew about food. First, we have to talk about shrimp paste. Shrimp paste isn't just food, it's an experience. For Vietnamese people, especially those who love bun đao, shrimp paste is the soul of the entire dish. Without it, the meal feels empty, lifeless. But for foreigners, shrimp paste can feel like a moment of existential reflection. What makes it so distinctive is its smell. It's not just mildly fishy, it's intensely pungent, deep, and overwhelmingly concentrated. Some describe it as something fermented so long that it goes beyond what feels normal. The reason lies in how it's made. Shrimp paste is fermented from shrimp and salt over a long period, sometimes for months. During that process, proteins break down and create compounds with incredibly strong aromas. For those who are used to it, it smells rich and appetizing, especially when mixed with a bit of lime or kumquat, turning it into something truly irresistible. But for those encountering it for the first time, it can feel like a direct punch to the senses. But what's fascinating is that once they get past that initial shock, many foreigners actually start to crave shrimp paste. They realize that when it's eaten with vermicelli, fried tofu, boiled pork, and fresh herbs, the smell is no longer overwhelming. Instead, it transforms into a dipping sauce that is incredibly complex, rich, and addictive. It's like the first time you drink black coffee, bitter and hard to enjoy, but one day you suddenly can't live without it. If shrimp paste is a challenge to the nose, then fertilized duck egg is a challenge to the mind, because this isn't just an egg, it's a developing life. When you crack it open, you don't just see a yolk, you see the form of a baby duck with a head, a beak, even tiny bones. For Vietnamese people, this is completely normal, even considered nutritious, high in protein, and good for your health. But for Westerners, where eggs are associated with something clean and simple, fertilized duck egg can be shocking. Many people can't even look at it, let alone eat it. Some try a bite and stop. Yet there are also those who, once they overcome that psychological barrier, begin to discover its uniquely rich, buttery, and savory flavor. In the end, this isn't just about food, it's about the difference in how cultures perceive food. For Vietnamese people, it's a familiar dish. For others, it's an unforgettable experience. Next, let's talk about snails. In Vietnam, eating snails has never been just about food. It's more like a true social ritual. In the evening, especially in Hanoi or Saigon, all you have to do is walk past a street-side snail stall and you'll see a familiar scene: low plastic tables and chairs, people sitting close together, bursts of laughter and lively chatter, the clinking of chopsticks and bowls, and the fragrant aroma of lemongrass and chili filling an entire corner of the street. People don't go there just to fill their stomachs. They go to linger, to talk, to slowly savor each tiny snail over the course of a long, unhurried evening. But for foreigners, especially those trying it for the first time, snails feel more like a mini survival game. Not because they're dangerous, but because they're so unfamiliar. From the appearance to the way you eat them, everything is different from what they've ever known. A plate full of spiral shells, tiny bits of meat hidden inside, no knives, no forks, no instructions, just a small toothpick. And along with it, a familiar phrase: just pick it out and eat. And that's when the challenge begins. Some struggle endlessly just to get the snail out. Others laugh while eating, realizing it feels more like solving a puzzle than having a meal. Some even give up halfway because they simply don't have the patience. For them, eating snails isn't just eating, it's a skill that has to be learned, and it doesn't stop there. Once they finally get the snail into their mouth, a second challenge appears. The texture is unlike anything they're used to. It's not soft like chicken, not firm like beef, not flaky like fish. It's chewy, slightly crunchy, with a faint slippery feel that's very distinctive. Vietnamese people grow up with it, so it feels completely normal. But for newcomers, it's a strangely confusing sensation. Some describe it as eating something they're not sure whether to swallow right away or keep chewing. And that moment of hesitation is when they realize this is not an easy dish to embrace. But then, like many controversial Vietnamese foods, snails have a secret weapon: the dipping sauce. Just dip a snail into a bowl of gingerfish sauce or a house-made blend unique to each stall, and everything starts to change. Salty, sweet, sour, and spicy flavors come together and hit the taste buds all at once. That once confusing piece of snail suddenly becomes the perfect base to carry all those flavors. And that's when people begin to understand it. Then they realize there isn't just one kind of snail. There are simple yet delicate boiled snails, stir-fried snails with lemongrass and chili, grilled snails, countless variations. And the interesting part is the more you eat, the more familiar it becomes and the more addictive it feels. At first, it might just be hesitant curiosity, trying it once just to know what it's like. But after a few times, people start inviting each other out for snails on their own. Some even become hooked without realizing it. In the end, that slightly slimy texture, that act of picking snails out one by one, once the very things that made them hesitate become exactly what draws them back. And that's what makes snails so special, a dish you don't love at first, but once you do, it's hard to let go. If snails are a challenge of sensation, then Nampia is a challenge of the mind. This is a dish from the ethnic communities of Vietnam's northwest region. Just hearing how it's made is enough to make many people want to turn away immediately. Because the most defining ingredient of Nampia is pia, and pia is the liquid found in the small intestine of herbivorous animals, goats, for example. At this point, many foreigners start to lose their composure. The dish is usually cooked into a thick consistency, somewhat like a soup, but denser, with a dark brown color. Inside, there's meat, organs, and a mix of mountain spices. The smell is, of course, not easy. It's strong, unfamiliar, a strange blend of bitterness, richness, and a faintly raw, grassy note reminiscent of partially digested matter. And the biggest shock lies in the taste. Nampia is bitter, not mildly bitter like coffee, but intensely, unmistakably bitter. Deeply, overwhelmingly bitter. For those unaccustomed to it, it can feel almost impossible to swallow. Some try it, fall silent for a few seconds, then simply shake their heads. But for the locals, it's an incredibly special dish. They don't eat it just for immediate pleasure, but for the deep aftertaste. After the initial bitterness fades, a rich, fatty flavor begins to spread, leaving behind a sensation unlike anything else. Nampia is like a challenge. Those who get through it step into an entirely different level of cuisine because even many Vietnamese people can't handle it. There's another interesting thing. In many Vietnamese dishes, smell isn't just a part of the experience, it's the main character. Dried fish, fermented sauces, and preserved seafood are the clearest examples. The moment you open them, the entire room changes. The aroma spreads quickly, intensely, and unmistakably. For Vietnamese people, it's the scent of home cooked meals, of something deeply familiar, but for foreigners, it can feel overwhelming at first. And yet, like many other dishes, when eaten properly with hot rice and the right combinations, they begin to realize that the once offensive smell transforms into something deeply satisfying, even crave-worthy. The only challenge is getting past that first moment. In many parts of the world, insects are considered the food of the future, but in Vietnam, they've been food for a long time already. Fried crickets, silkworm pupae, stir-fried frogs, and many other insect-related dishes, not just insects alone, are all familiar to many locals. Or for Westerners, though, this becomes a major psychological barrier. These creatures aren't associated with food in their minds. They belong to nature or even fear, but once they try them, many are surprised. They're not as frightening as imagined. Some are even delicious. And just like that, another assumption is broken. Vietnamese cuisine follows a very clear philosophy. Nothing goes to waste. Parts that are discarded elsewhere become specialties here. Chicken feet and pork offal are perfect examples. For many foreigners, eating these parts feels unusual. They're used to clean, neat, easy cuts of meat. Organs like intestines or liver are often avoided. But for Vietnamese people, these are the most texturally interesting parts, crispy, chewy, rich, and full of flavor. And when paired with the right dipping sauce and fresh herbs, they become incredibly satisfying. Not everyone loves them, but once you do, it's hard to give them up. Many people start with curiosity. Some begin with shock, others approach with hesitation. But if they keep going, they discover a completely different world, a world where strong smells aren't a flaw, but a defining feature, a place where the unusual becomes normal, a place called Vietnam, where every dish carries its own story. And in the end, people realize something simple. It's not the food that changes, it's the way you see it. And that's exactly why so many foreigners, after almost panicking on their very first day, end up coming back to Vietnam just to taste it all one more time. If you found this interesting, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next videos.